Okay, guys, it seems to me that you understood what I was teaching you yesterday. Most of your equations yesterday were two-step equations. We're going to do some one-step equations. And you're also going to learn a new type of equation, okay, which is going to be starting with division. And I'm just going to go ahead and get started. Okay, so yesterday you kind of started harder and it's going to get a little bit easier. You started with an integer in front of your variable. We're working with other than x. These are, different letters, so this is a q. Okay, so it's a one-step equation because all you have to do is get your variable alone, get that q alone. In order to do that, you have to get rid of that positive 2, and you do the opposite of positive 2, which is negative 2, okay? So just like yesterday, you're going to write a negative 2 underneath so that you can get rid of that negative 2. You can get rid of that positive 2. And what you do to one side of the equal sign, you have to do to the other side. So I'm going to write my negative 2 under here. And this is mostly a review from yesterday. Okay, you're going to bring your variable down, which is a q. You're going to bring your equal sign down. And you're just going to solve that little equation there, positive 7, negative 2. And you're going to get positive 5. Q would equal 5 in that equation. Okay? So the next one is a different one-step equation. This time there is a variable in front, there's an integer in front of the variable, but there's no term to move over across the equal sign. Okay, so this was where you got to yesterday when you already moved that integer to the other side of the equal sign. So you are left with just getting the variable alone. This is multiplication 4 times v. So you have to do the opposite of multiplication, which is division. And you will divide by 4 to get that v alone. Why 4? Because 4 is there. You have to use the same number in order to cross it out, okay? And what you do to one side of the equal sign, you do to the other. So you bring that divide by 4 over there. And you solve that equation. You have your variable alone, you bring it down. It's a v, you bring down your equal sign, and then you solve. 676 divided by 4 is, you would take a couple minutes to figure that out. You wouldn't have that in your mind already, but when you do figure it out, you will find that it is 169. V equals 169. And then that equation is done. Okay? Now I needed to give you one that was not set up in the form that you're used to, because they're not always going to be in that easy form that you're used to. You have to rewrite this equation. Okay? You have to rewrite it so that your variable will come first, then your integer, then your equal sign, and then what it equals is 162. Okay, so how we do that is we just rewrite it. You start with your variable k, bring down your plus 181. Okay, and the next thing that comes is your equal sign. And the next thing that comes is 162. Now, you did have a choice if you wanted to make this negative 162, because when you move something across the equal sign, you do have to change the sign, but it's still going to work out for us. You'll see at the end. Okay, you can just rewrite it like that. I don't want to confuse you. Just go through the steps of how you solve it, which is that you need to get k alone, and to do that you have to subtract that integer by itself. It's subtraction because it starts out as a positive and you have to change it to a negative. Okay, so you do the opposite so that you can then cross it out. And what you do on one side of the equal sign, you do to the other. And what you might notice, if you're looking at those numbers, is that you have a negative 181 and a positive 162. You know enough about your signs and your positive and your rules to now understand that your answer is going to be negative, okay? Because your negative is your bigger number. So here's how this works. You bring down your variable, which is k. You still bring down your equal sign, okay? And then you solve that. Negative 181, positive 162 is going to give you a negative 19, okay? But the thing about algebra is you cannot have a negative integer there, okay? So you're gonna actually, nope, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. You can have a negative integer, you can't have a negative variable. So you're good. You're just going to go ahead and keep that as your answer. I got a little ahead of myself. If that was a negative k, we would have to switch it back, but it's not. It's a positive k, and we have a k equals negative 19. Okay, so here's the last one that is new, and all of these have started with a multiplication. Well, that one and that one had multiplication, and we changed it to division. What you're doing now is starting with division and changing it to multiplication. And the way that you do that is you do the opposite of division, which is multiplying, which is using the reciprocal of that number. And what that is changing it to a multiplication problem, okay? And that is because you're going to then cross those out so that you can get p alone, because p over 1 is just p. You can bring that down right now if you like, just so you can see what we just did there, okay? And I brought my equal sign down. But what you do to one side on the equal sign, you have to do to the other. So just how we wrote 5 over 1 on that side, we're going to write 5 over 1 on this side. Just like that. And then we're going to solve, okay? And to solve that, if you wanted to review how to multiply fractions, you could remind yourself that every integer that's a whole number is really over 1, okay? And you multiply fractions by multiplying across. First you multiply your numerators. 6 times 5 is 30. And then you multiply your denominators. 1 times 1 is 1. Okay, now we are in 8th grade and this is algebra. So I showed you that extra step, but really you would not do all of those steps. You would just go ahead and multiply across. 6 times 5 is 30, and p would equal 30. And that's how you will solve those. You will have 5 problems today, maybe 6, probably 6, and good luck.